Hey up guys, I'm Mason, the blind wrestling fan, and this is Wrestling in the Dark. This week on the WITD Weekly number 2, we've got plenty to talk about. We'll be talking about the draft, a huge tag team split up, rumours of Roman Reigns getting a heel faction, the possible winner of the Royal Rumble 2021, the leader of Retribution being revealed. There is a lot to get to, so let's get right to it. Hit the like button if you enjoy this video, subscribe so you don't miss any in future, buckle up, have fun, let's go. We'll kick things off talking about the draft, night one of which of course took place on Friday night SmackDown, and there's actually quite a lot of interesting stuff that come out of it. So Seth Rollins switched brands, so did AJ Styles and Naomi, and with a huge tag team breakup, the brand new SmackDown tag team champions Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston of the New Day also switched brands. They had a match against Cesaro and Nakamura, won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, and then promptly got drafted to Raw, leaving Big E behind, which of course is upsetting a lot of people because, you know, people have been calling for New Day to break up for however long, and now that they have, everyone's pissed off. I actually thought that this was quite an interesting draft. There was just so much to talk about. Seth Rollins getting drafted to SmackDown for the first time. He's been on Raw for the entirety of his main roster run. He's been the Monday Night Messiah for the past year or whatever, and now he's on SmackDown. As are the Mysterios, so that's interesting. He originally spoke about it and they asked him about moving, and he said, I'm looking forward to putting the past behind me, I don't have to see the Mysterios anymore, and then they were drafted along with him, so I guess that feud's going to be taking up time on SmackDown. I don't have a problem with the Seth Rollins Mysterio feud, but on Raw there's a lot more time for it to breathe. They can stretch it out throughout the show. SmackDown has only 2 hours, and I feel like with how much focus they like to put on that feud, it's going to take up a lot of time. And as for Rollins in general, obviously eventually that Mysterio feud is going to end, so what do you do with him there after that? Because, well, you've got Roman as the top guy, he's a heel, so having Rollins feud with him seems unlikely since they don't like doing heel versus heel. I don't necessarily think that it would be a bad feud. They've got so much history together that it'd be an interesting one, but I definitely think that it would mean that they'd have to turn Rollins face, and he's so deep into that heel character now. I mean, Jesus Christ guys, he literally almost blinded Rey Mysterio this year. How do you turn him face after that? And I really don't see what you do with him, who you put him against. On the watch-along, the draft watch-along, he said that he had no interest whatsoever in wrestling Matt Riddle, and a lot of people are taking him at his word, thinking that it's a bit of a shoot because of all of the controversy around Matt Riddle. I don't know whether I necessarily believe that. Maybe if it was in some sort of dirt sheet interview, like if it was a inside the ropes interview with Kenny McIntosh, then maybe I'd be like, okay, that might be a shoot. But with it being on a WWE watch-along video, I don't know whether I believe that is a shoot thing, and maybe it's setting up a possible feud between those two. In terms of other people for him to feud with, maybe having him go against Sami Zayn wouldn't be too bad, putting him in the Intercontinental Championship scene. It seems a little bit below him considering how much focus has been on him over the last year, but at the same time AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy were just in that scene, so it might not be as big of a step down as I think. Personally though, if we're actually talking about the Intercontinental Championship scene, with Sami Zayn staying on SmackDown, that's good. I'd quite like to see Dominik Mysterio going against him at some point. Look, WWE fans are just they're the worst sometimes, because they constantly whine that WWE doesn't build new stars, and then as soon as someone starts taking up time, like Dominik Mysterio, it's who's this guy? He hasn't earned a place. Why is he taking up so much time? I want someone else to get pushed. And I just think that it's actually really cool to see someone completely fresh, who we've not seen before, who hasn't been laden down with crap gimmicks and not pushed for years so you don't care about him, coming in, getting a push, carving out a place for himself. He's got that legacy of being Rey Mysterio's kid, and I think having him go against Sami Zayn could actually be really, really cool and a good way to establish him, give him his first title run. Having him beat Sami Zayn isn't necessarily unbelievable, considering that he's been hanging with Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy, etc. So I think that would be pretty cool. So maybe have some sort of triple threat, have Dominik Mysterio going after Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins stepping in like, I'm not done with you, I'm not going to let this happen. Because I really don't know, other than that, who you have him feud with. Maybe Big E, because Big E is going to need someone to feud with once he's finished with Sheamus and before he goes for Roman Reigns, because I really do believe that with him staying on SmackDown, they've got big plans for him, and I do think that he'll go up against Roman at some point. Personally, I'd really like to see Big E come really close to winning the Royal Rumble. Don't get me wrong, if he actually won the Royal Rumble, I'd be interested in that too. But I'd be interested to see him come close, not quite get it, and that just flip this switch, this intensity, and then he goes on to the Elimination Chamber and just batters everyone, because I think that would be really cool. Also drafted was Bianca Belair, and I think that is a really good move. She's going to have some time to shine on SmackDown. They can continue these EST video packages that they've been doing, and I think it's a really good opportunity for her to step up and go for a title against whoever wins out of this Sasha Bayley feud. I'm really, really excited to see it, actually. I haven't necessarily been the biggest mark for Bianca Belair because I'm not a massive fan of her on the mic, but I also do think she's pretty cool, and I think it's a fresh face, a brand new feud that they can do, so that could be really cool. Again, Royal Rumble season sort of right around the corner, not far now. I know we're only in October, so we've got November, December, January to go, but that, you know, bloody hell, how quick has this year gone? So that could happen really, really quickly. The New Day being split up is a really, really interesting one. I personally don't see why it needs to be the official end of New Day. Yeah, okay, it's sad that they're not going to be on the same brand, they're not going to be constantly interacting, but there has been a lot of times where one of them has been injured, so they've not necessarily been operating as a trio anyway. Big E's been on his own for a little while now, and I think that they're still friends, and main roster pay-per-views are co-branded, so they can still interact at them. They don't need to necessarily put a stop to the New Day. They're going to still have the same gimmicks, probably. I can't see much changing there, but the interesting one is that they're having a farewell match next week. So, it all depends, doesn't it? It all depends, because Big E could easily turn on them. And I think that I don't think I'd go that way, because Big E needs to be face. But what if Xavier and Kofi turned heel and turned on him? Everyone's expecting Big E to be the one to turn and turn his back on them, and I think it'd be really, really interesting if they were sort of annoyed that he's getting this spotlight pushed on his own, and, you know, Xavier comes in, he talks about how he's put his body on the line for the New Day so much, and then Big E gets drafted to SmackDown and he's got big plans, but them two just turn on him. I think that could be really, really interesting. Another interesting thing to consider is the fact that Raw now has both sets of tag team champions. They've got the Street Profits, they've got the New Day, so are the Raw Championships going to go to SmackDown and they just switch, or are we looking at a unification sort of thing going ahead? Because I think that could be that could be really cool. At the end of the day, they haven't necessarily had much of a focus on the tag team division in any of the brands really over the last year. NXT, it sort of died off, and they haven't necessarily had any massive feuds, so unifying it might actually create some space on both brands. Raw can have the tag team division, and that can be sort of just something that they have that sets them apart from SmackDown, and SmackDown can focus on singles feuds. So there's a lot of interesting different things coming out of this. AJ Styles switching brands, who didn't see that coming? There was reports a little while back that he was not happy that he didn't get to see his kids' football games anymore. Paul Heyman's there, and it's become very clear this year after the departure of Gallows and Anderson that he is not a fan of Paul Heyman, so he probably wanted to get away from him. Moving to Raw, pretty cool. There's plenty of stuff that he can do over there. I'd love to see him go up against Drew McIntyre, but that also depends on, you know, what happens going forward, because Randy is getting so many shots that I wouldn't be surprised if they put the title on Randy. But an AJ Styles Randy Orton feud wouldn't be too bad, especially if AJ turns face, because I think I prefer AJ as a face. Naomi also went to Raw, and interestingly, MVP of the Hurt Business showed some interest in that, and since the Hurt Business are feuding with Retribution, who we'll talk a little bit more about later, they could do with a woman. So we could be looking at Naomi joining the Hurt Business, which could be really cool. I wouldn't be up for it if I thought that she needed to be heel, but I mean, the Hurt Business at the minute they're heels, but they're going to be feuding with Retribution, so does that mean that they're going to be turning face down the line? And at that point, Naomi joining them and going up against Mia Yim could be really cool. I think that they could actually get some really awesome matches out of that, and it finally gives Naomi that push that people have been wanting her to have for a while. Naomi going up against Asuka could be actually really interesting as well, so I'm actually quite glad that she switched brands. Lars Sullivan returned actually during SmackDown, laid a beat down on Matt Riddle and his friends during their tag team match, and yeah, Lars Sullivan, I completely forgot that he even existed. I'm not even kidding. A little while back, I was trying to think about who the participants were in that inaugural NXT North American ladder match, and I was trying to think. I was like, yeah, I love that match because there's that spot where Killian Dane is throwing Ricochet back and forth with who's that guy? Who is it? And I just could not remember. And then it sort of went out of my mind and I hadn't thought about it. And then when he returned this week, I was like, that's who it is. That's the guy. Obviously, before he went away, he was mired in a bit of controversy, which that's sort of a common thing this year, isn't it, with WWE? There's plenty of people that have been laden with controversy, but at the end of the day, if certain people have been allowed to continue and allowed back, I think I've heard that Titus O'Neil came forward and said that Sullivan apologised to plenty of people backstage, made it very clear that he has a lot of regret over the stuff that he says, and if he really has changed, if he has put, you know, all of that horribleness behind him and he's changed as a person, I don't see why he shouldn't get a second chance. Don't get me wrong, the stuff that he said, the racism, the sexism, the homophobia, all of that is really, really bad, and I can't really say that I approve of that at all, but at the same time, we live in a world where people get forgiven and get let back. I really wasn't I wasn't happy with the Sammy Guevara situation earlier this year with the comments that he made, but he's been allowed to continue doing what he's doing. Obviously they're different companies, but I can't see how you can justify one and not justify the other, especially when the defense of Sammy Guevara was, well, it was really young when he said it, well, so was Lord Sullivan. So yeah, that should be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with him. I can't believe that I forgot who he was completely, though. Yeah, so in terms of the draft, plenty of interesting stuff going on. I'm actually really intrigued to see what happens on Raw and see if any other people get shifted round, and I think that it was actually quite a newsworthy piece, as as demonstrated by the fact that I've just sat and talked about it for a good long while. The biggest thing coming out of it is the New Day split, and I really don't think that people need to be so negative about it. I really don't think it's that bad of a thing. At the end of the day, now that they've been split up, eventually they're going to reunite. Anyone who doesn't think that they're going to reunite eventually is just probably mistaken. I don't want to say that they're wrong, because that's not the kind of person I am, but I do think eventually they're going to come back together, and that emotional moment of them finally being reunited is actually going to lend a new dynamic to the New Day. At the end of the day, they've been together for so long now. They've had all these tag team runs. Kofi got a spotlight to himself last year. Big E's now getting a spotlight to himself. Xavier might down the line. I want to see them all have separate success, and if it means that they have to be split up, then that's just how it has to be, and I don't necessarily think it's a negative thing. They don't have to have it be the end of New Day. Plenty of stuff coming out of the draft. Let me know in the comments what you think of any of the moves or the drafts or anything coming out of it. Moving on, I want to talk about Roman Reigns. So I guess it's still sort of sticking with SmackDown, but there's a little bit to unpack here with Roman. So, earlier in the week, WrestlingNews.co reported that there were possible plans for Roman getting a heel stable in the coming future. Maybe with the Usos and Naomi, which doesn't seem very likely considering Naomi's now been moved, but the idea of him actually getting a faction is pretty interesting to me. And coming off the news on Friday that it's now going to be an I Quit match inside Hell in a Cell too, which is, double stipulation. That's so dramatic, the highest stakes ever. I think that they could actually do some really interesting stuff with this. Roman says there are gonna be consequences when you say I quit, and I think it would personally be pretty interesting if Jay had to swear loyalty to Roman, has to sort of give up his singles career and sort of just become Roman bitch. I think that would be a really interesting way to go. As it stands, Jay was drafted to SmackDown. Jimmy, who's out at the minute with injury, did not get drafted, so people are saying that the Usos are split up, which is interesting, because could we see Jimmy get drafted to Raw along with Naomi? That could be interesting, but in that case, who would be in the heel Roman stable? Could we see a reuniting of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns? I can't see that happening, but it'd be interesting. I really would have liked to see this sort of bloodline faction, so Roman, Jimmy, Jay, Naomi, Nia, with Roman being the top dog, the champ, Jimmy and Jay as the tag team champions, although that doesn't look too likely now because SmackDown doesn't even have a tag team championship at the minute. Nia and Naomi as the women's champ, that would have been interesting. But yeah, I find all of this really interesting. The idea that he could get some sort of heel faction is really interesting, because we haven't seen that sort of team style thing with Roman since the Shield. Sorry, my phone's shouting in my ear then. Yeah, we haven't seen him be in a team since the Shield, and I'd really like to see him leading. And if Jay, oh man, I can't believe I've just done that. If Jay has to swear loyalty to Roman, I think that could be a really interesting storyline, because he has to say I quit and swear loyalty to him, and then he has to do what Roman says over the next year or whatever. He has to get involved in matches, help Roman out, attack people when he doesn't want to, and you have this constant building tension of when is Jay gonna snap. Right now he has to do what Roman says. He's just his bitch, like I said earlier on, and you get this constant when is he gonna snap, when is he gonna snap, and then eventually when he does just attack Roman and you reignite the feud, Jay could come out of this as a massive star. So yeah, earlier this week, when it seemed like Jimmy and Jay would be a part of that stable, I was really excited, but now everything's just been thrown into sort of up in the air, because what is going to happen? Why did Jimmy not get drafted? Is he not going to get drafted at all and be a free agent, and they're just going to wait till he comes back and then he's going to join them? I think that it's all just quite intriguing. An I Quit match inside Hell in a Cell, that one I'm actually really intrigued by. This one is going to be the nasty one. We all thought Jay was going to get destroyed last time, but this time, man, Roman's pissed off. He's annoyed that Jay didn't call him the tribal chief, and now he's going to make some real consequences, and I can't wait to see what they are. What is he going to make Jay do? What is the I Quit? Is it going to be you have to leave WWE? Obviously, Jay's not going to actually leave, but they do these sorts of storylines. Maybe Jay wants a little bit of time off while Jimmy's off, and they can go away and Roman can sort of revel in the fact that he got rid of his cousin. There's just so many different ways they can go with it, and I wouldn't have thought, even though if you'd have asked me, I would have said, yeah, I really want a feud between one of the Usos and Roman. I wouldn't have thought that I'd have been as invested as I am, and I really, really like that they've done such a good job that I'm as interested as I am. So you should let me know what you think about whether Roman's going to get a heel stable, what you think the consequences are going to be with Jay, whether you think that he will have to swear loyalty to Roman. Just let me know what you think. Let's talk about NXT. Well, what a week it's been for the Black and Gold brand. Coming off TakeOver 31, which was a really hot show, they just got absolutely battered with injuries. Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly both came out injured. Finn came off worse in the situation, I think, because as far as Kyle O'Reilly went, it was mainly just some broken teeth, which is, bad enough. But Balor had a fractured jaw in 2 different places. Yeah, that's nasty. At the end of the day, this is one of those things where it's just sort of the discretion of the talent. If going into that match, Balor and O'Reilly looked at each other and went, let's just have one of those matches. Let's just stiff the hell out of each other. We'll just lay those shots in snug and have it look really good, then fair enough. I mean, obviously I can't speak to how it looked. I couldn't see it. In terms of the story of the match, as I said in the TakeOver 31 recap, I absolutely bloody loved the story of the match. But it's one of those. People have pointed out that, it's unsafe, it's not necessarily a good match if people come out injured. Can you really class it as a really good match if they're legit beating the shit out of each other? And yeah, I see where you're coming from. I know that, certain people have spoke on this subject. Chris Jericho tweeted about it, then deleted the tweets. But it's just one of those. At the end of the day, it's not the management telling them, Triple H isn't there like, right, go out there, batter each other, injure each other, and that's what I want you to do. No, it's Balor and O'Reilly saying, right, we've both been in Japan, let's just have one of those strong style matches. And at that point, what happens. And yeah, at the end of the day, I'm really, really glad that Balor hasn't had to relinquish the title. It's crazy that he hasn't, because considering Karrion Kross just had a separated shoulder, I'm not a medic. I don't know. I don't know recovery times and, the severity of certain injuries. To me, if you said I had a separated shoulder and you said I had a fractured jaw in 2 different places, I would personally be like, ouch, that jaw thing sounds nasty. But in terms of actual physicality, for all I know, a separated shoulder is worse than a fractured jaw. And so I'm really glad that he didn't have to relinquish the title, because I was really worried going into NXT, because I thought that it was going to be one of those where Balor was going to have to come out and be like, I had the match of my life, we had a scrap, and now I've got to give it up, but I'll be back and I'll reclaim this title. And I thought that we were going to end up having another title run, that title stealing bastard. But no, Balor got to keep it. And I'm happy about that. Unfortunately, though, for NXT, that wasn't the only injury that happened this week, because Ridge Holland, who seemed destined for a massive push after attacking Adam Cole, ended up going down with his own set of injuries. Is Adam Cole a wizard, or what? Because during NXT he said that Ridge was a dead man for attacking him. And it seems like he's put some sort of curse on him, because, a mere hour or so later, Ridge goes down with some nasty injuries. He has this match with Danny Burch, ends up brawling with Burch and Lorcan afterwards. Lorcan does a dive, and Ridge catches him. And it all goes to shit, because Ridge goes down, ends up having to get stretchered out, and it comes out later in the week that he suffered a dislocated and fractured ankle on the left leg, and dislocated his knee on the right leg, as well as blowing out the patella tendon. So it's looking like he's going to be out 6 months to a year. Oh man, that sucks. I was actually really excited to see what they were going to do with Ridge Holland. A good old Yorkshire northern boy that was pretty awesome on the mic from the limited amount of mic time that we've seen him have. I was just excited to see what was going to happen, and then just wrestling's weird. It is, isn't it? Because it's not surprising for Balor and O'Reilly to come out worse for wear after that match, when they're just battering each other with stiff shots. That's understandable, but sometimes it's just the simple stuff. A dive out of the ring, and if you're not in the right position, if the weight doesn't fall properly, you can just go down and have a nasty set of injuries to injure both legs. But we've got to ask what is going to happen, because Ridge pointed out last week he didn't have a Mercedes. This week he does. So someone paid him to attack Adam Cole. So what happens going forward? I personally think they should just sort of fast forward, because you would have had the Adam Cole feud, and then he would have found out who paid Ridge to attack him. But we're just gonna have to jump right over that and just have whoever paid Ridge off come out, attack Cole, and be like, if you can't get something done, do it yourself. Who it will be, I have no idea, because I really don't want it to be one of the Undisputed Era members. I personally am just a huge Undisputed Era mark, and the idea of it being one of them, especially, not Kyle, because Kyle is in such a babyface role right now. It's more likely to be either Strong or Fish, and if it's Strong, I mean, that could be pretty cool, but I would like to see Undisputed Era go up to the main roster together. I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to them splitting between Raw and SmackDown. Again, what I was talking about with the New Day, with them being on different brands, but it not needing to be the end of the New Day. I'd quite like to see Undisputed Era split up, go to Raw and SmackDown, dominate WWE, but I'd also like to see them go up together. I really don't want Undisputed Era to split up, so hopefully it's not one of them. But other than that, I really don't know who I think it would be. Tommaso Ciampa seems a little bit random, and other than that, who is there? Who could have done it? Maybe Santos Escobar. That again, random. I don't know. I don't really have any ideas, but if you do, let me know in the comments section, because I'd really like to know who you guys think paid off Ridge Holland. Those set of injuries, really nasty business. I feel sorry for NXT this week because they've now got to scramble and come up with some different stories going forward. Halloween Havoc is coming back later this month, if we're sticking with NXT. Interesting. I've never personally watched a Halloween Havoc pay-per-view. I'm not sure how much I'm going to end up enjoying it, just because it seems like most of it would probably be window dressing. They might do some sort of gimmick match, like a street fight match. I can't see them doing like a trick-or-treat street fight like they do on the main roster. I can't see that. NXT can be silly, but it's not usually that silly. So they might do some sort of cage match or some sort of gimmick match like that, but for the most part I feel like it's going to be mostly window dressing. But it's pretty cool for Shotzi Blackheart. She gets to be the host she gets to be the host of the event, and that's a good sign for what they think of Shotzi Blackheart. The fact that they know that there's money there, and her presenting this Halloween Havoc show is just a really good sign going forwards, because damn, look at this NXT women's division now, man. Ember Moon's back, so you've got Io Shirai, Ember Moon, Candice LeRae, Dakota Kai, Raquel Gonzalez, Rhea Ripley, Toni Storm. That is a stacked women's division, along with Shotzi Blackheart, obviously, because I was talking about her. So there's a lot going on there, and I'd really like to see what they're going to do with this Halloween Havoc, but I am worried that it's just mostly going to be a visual thing that I'm going to miss out on. As of Monday Night Raw, we now know who the leader of Retribution is. It's none other than Mustafa Ali. And this is a really good thing, in my opinion. That guy there's something about him. Any of the promos that I've seen him cut are always good. I know that people say that they're really stylistic. Obviously, I can't speak to that. I don't know what they look like. But he's good on the mic, and he's got a good character. And poor guy was in line for Kofi's push last year. And that brings me to the fact that on Twitter, WWE announced that Xavier and Kofi were going over to Raw. Well, they didn't announce it. It had already been announced on SmackDown, but they confirmed it, tweeted about it, and Mustafa Ali requoted it, and he was like, "Hi Kofi," and that's interesting, because Retribution going after the New Day, man, that could be really cool. Mustafa Ali going after Kofi, you took my place, I haven't had any opportunities since then, I'm gonna get my retribution against you, Kofi. Instantly got a really cool dynamic. The New Day possibly teaming up with the Hurt Business down the line, that could be cool. I just wasn't expecting it, and I feel like it's actually really good news. Mustafa Ali really deserves to get a push, and I want to see good things for him. I want to see him get a star made out of him, because he really does deserve it, and he was in line for it last year, and then it just got taken away from him. He went down with injury, they went in a different direction. He was supposed to be, or was rumoured to be, the SmackDown hacker, and then that went nowhere, and now he's the leader of Retribution, and it actually gives the faction a little bit of a direction. He has obviously indoctrinated them, brainwashed them with his bitterness towards the fact that he hasn't had any opportunities since Kofi stole it off him, and the fact that they're moving the New Day over to Raw and possibly going with that feud is just, yeah, at the end of the day, WWE doesn't always get it right. Sometimes they do, and sometimes when they get it right, they get it really right, and I can't wait to see Mustafa Ali and Kofi Kingston going back and forth on the mic and in the ring, and seeing the story that unfolds there. I'm really excited for it. I don't really have too much more to say on the subject. Actually, when it comes to Retribution, the rumour and innuendo right now is that Mercedes Martinez has been dropped from that faction and she's heading back to NXT, so yet another female for that stacked goddamn division. But if so, I definitely think Naomi will be joining the Hurt Business, because if they've only got one female in Retribution, then they can just add Naomi into the Hurt Business, and that's their female on female action there. Mia Yim versus Naomi could be bloody awesome. Mustafa Ali just at the helm of that, steering the direction. It was a really cool reveal too, sort of made it look like he was going to help the Hurt Business, and then rolled out the ring and just told them, get him. And shocker, man, because I thought T-Bar / Dijakovic was the leader, but no, it's Mustafa Ali. Haha, I tricked you all, you weren't expecting that. So yeah, man, that's a really, really cool development, and I think that it's going to be something to watch going forward. I think that it might end up being the shining star of Raw in the next couple of months, because, you know, they don't have too much else that I'm needing to keep my eye on, but that's something that every week I'm going to be like, what happened? What did Mustafa Ali do? What's he saying? What's his motivation? Who's he going after? It's just, yeah, I'm really, really happy for Mustafa Ali. Finally, to cap things off, I wanted to talk about the possible rumoured winner for the Royal Rumble 2021, which appears to be a Hall of Famer. Yay! Dave Meltzer earlier this week reported that Edge was taking a little bit longer to recover than he thought, due to his possibly due to his age, but that the current sort of trajectory, the plan was for him to be back by February, and apparently, if that's the case, they might be looking to make Orton the WWE Champion and have Edge win the Rumble and go after Orton for the second year in a row. Hey. Yeah, I guess it's pretty clear how I feel about that one. I'm sort of nervous about talking about it. I've only been a fan since 2012, so we're looking at what, 8 years now, and I just don't have that connection to some of the Attitude Era stars. That I don't have that nostalgia for it, and I feel like with Edge, he's got the clout, man. He's got the position within the company to just come back and be like, Randy Orton, I want you. We had that feud. It didn't finish. I got injured. Let's do it again. And it doesn't need the Royal Rumble behind it. There were so many different people that could do with winning the Rumble this year. Obviously, Big E is one of the top contenders that I'd love to see do it. Jey Uso would be really interesting. Seth Rollins, Aleister Black, Mustafa Ali. There's so many different people that you could go with that need a push. Someone like Ricochet, and they're never going to have Ricochet win the Royal Rumble, but that would actually be a decent way to start propelling him, giving him a push that he hasn't had. And the idea that they're going to go with friggin' Edge, just, man, I'm not going to, yeah, no, actually I am going to say it pisses me off, because I really don't think that he needs it. I really, really don't think that we only have 2 Rumbles a year, one women's, one man's, and the idea that they're just going to waste it on someone that can just come back and demand a match and get it anyway, there's just better ways to go, and I really hope this is a case of dirt sheets lol, and that Meltzer's sort of full of crap, because I really, really don't want that to happen. I just feel like there's a lot of better choices. Like I say, for me, Big E is like the top choice. It'd be a really good way to have him win and go after Roman and have that big WrestleMania match between Big E and Roman and really propel Big E up to that main event sphere. And I do not want it to be Edge. That's about it then. There was plenty of stuff to talk about this week. If you've got any thoughts on any of those subjects, drop it in the comments section and we'll have a chat about it. Thanks for your time this week. I'll see you next week. For now, I'm off, and you should have a good one.